Hey everybody, hey, the video that follows is a very special edition of what I normally do. I put this all together in a report. I did some research recently. So if you'll just sign up for this information, just give me your email. That's all I need. I'm going to send you a copy of this report, some of the research I did, and show you some of the impact from this next segment. We're going to talk about the effect of the growth of social media and the impact on suicide in America for our children ages 10 to 14 and 15 to 19. Look, when I did this research, it was a huge eye-opener. I've also got an accompanying video for the report that's going to go with this. But if you guys will just sign up for this report, just give me your name and email. I'll get this right out to you. But make sure you watch this video. It is that important. Welcome, everybody. This is a special edition. And I seriously say this, too. There's no jokes this time. This is really important. I've been told you I've been changing the focus of what it is I'm going to do. I've got Bill and Kylie Guyther. Can't even say that fast. On the line with me today because Bill and I have known each other for a couple years, and we started talking about this and came across a very interesting story with his daughter Kylie. So I've been focusing now more on kids and the healthy use of technology, still based on my technology background, and also focusing on online dating, online scams, how it affects women in that age rate. But this story was so interesting. So what I wanted to do is this gets into very serious issues about how kids use their technology, how it affects them from a depression standpoint. I've actually just finished doing a survey, and Bill, actually, some of the stats, in fact, Kylie, that stuff that you gave me, I've incorporated into this report that I'm going to do. So when I get it together, I'll put it up there for everybody to show. But let's put it this way. Since 2010, the suicide rate for boys 15 to 19 has gone up tremendously. For girls 15 to 19, it's doubled. I mean, if this looked like the stock market, it would be up and to the right. And unfortunately, we're talking about kids. So let's start off with you, Kylie. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves real quickly? Kylie, let's start with you. Then Bill, tell us where you're at. And then let's get back into that story about where you are today, and then we'll talk from there.
Yeah, okay, so my name's Kylie Guyther. We're out of Gastonia, North Carolina, and yeah, you want to introduce yourself, or you want me to tell my story first? I'm 15 years old, and so now I guess I'll just go into my story. So about 2 years ago, I was struggling tremendously with depression and self-worth, and I was just going through a really tough time, and, that's something that I had never experienced before. I've always been, super happy, super jumpy, excited, whatever, so it was something that I had never experienced before. So what any teenager would do when they hadn't experienced this feeling before, they turn to social media or technology, because that's not something that you go to your friends or your family about, because you don't know how to approach that because you've never experienced this feeling before.
So, hey, Kylie, real quick. So let's talk about that. When you said you hadn't experienced that before, had you had access? So where are you at right now with having access to technology, like a smartphone or a tablet and social media? Had you just started? Were you already on it? So when these feelings of depression started, where are you at with the tech side of it?
Yeah, so I was about 13 years old at this point. I'd probably had a smartphone for about 3 years, like a working, with social media and everything like that. Probably about 3 years when this started to hit and really, get bad and put me in a low point in my life. So, yeah, that was obviously a huge impact. And, again, I didn't know how to handle it or what to feel. So, I went to Instagram was the one that, I chose. And I would just go and, hopefully I was like, oh, well, I'll just watch some funny videos, cat videos, whatever. And, but then I would come across people talking about how they wanted to kill themselves on social media. And I would just scroll past that.
And how old were some of these when you say you were there talking? What kind of, were they boys, girls? What kind of age range were they?
Yeah, all kinds, like, pretty much anywhere from 11 to 18.
Wow.
All kinds of people, some of them even my friends at that point. And I was so dumbfounded. And, the ones that were my friends I went to and I was like, hey, what's going on? How is everything doing? And I wanted to be there for them. But little did I know that my subconscious mind was picking up on those thoughts. And, I didn't know that. I didn't understand that. But, I was scrolling and I would see kill yourself, depression, and all of these things. And they were being implemented into my brain when I had no clue. And, and then I started to get these thoughts and I started to think, well, maybe I should just kill myself. And maybe, maybe I'm depressed and all of this kind of stuff.
Over what period of time did that start happening? So, I mean, are we talking about a couple months, 3 months? I mean, how long from the point that you kind of started scrolling, like you said, getting on Instagram, how long did this go on?
Yeah, I mean, it happened quickly, but the time frame that it happened, it was probably 6 months. I got these feelings very fast. Like the first 2 weeks I was scrolling, that's when I started to think and feel like that. But I probably kept them to myself for about 6 months to 8 months around that
And
time.
how many hours a day do you think that you were on scrolling through Instagram or other social media on your phone?
A lot, probably 5 or 6 hours, honestly. I'd come home from school, do my homework, and then, I was on Instagram or Snapchat or Facebook or whatever social media. So.
And then how late, what time did you normally go to bed, and would you stay up late? Where was your phone at? Was it in your bedroom? Kind of, some of the other details around that too.
Yeah, so usually my bedtime was probably around 10, 9 or 10, and I would go and I'd probably scroll through social media for another hour and a half to 2 hours, and just continue to scroll. And when I was supposed to be asleep, so I was usually up till 11 o'clock or midnight.
And let's stop there for a second, because I want to bring your dad in, Bill. So let's go back to that point in time. When you gave her originally that tech, what were you thinking? And then when did you start noticing a change? And what was the first thing what was the first indication that something was changing with Kylie?
Well, we gave her the technology, and as a parent today, I mean, believe it or not, social media and today's technology, it's as new to us as parents as it is to the children. I mean, it's just new technology for us. So, we don't know how to handle it or how to approach it. And, I got her first phone, at probably 10 or 11 years old. Not even so much for her as is for me. She's going to her friend's house or, going to be at school with things that happen at school or something. I just wanted to have a line of communication from her to me and me to her. So that was the purpose of giving it to her. And again, not thinking about the ramifications of, the technology that's there and available. And she went from being, a real happy kid to, all of a sudden now I'm depressed, Dad, and I'm not happy. And, quite frankly, I mean, we got to the point, and I hate to say this, but it's the reality that she got to the point where she was, cutting herself. And
so let me kind of stop you right there. Let's drill down on that a little bit. So Kylie, let's talk about you at this point. Was there anything from a school standpoint or any other kind of an organization standpoint that really talked to you about the dangers of, hey, this is what happens if you spend too much time on social media, or this is what happens when you see all this influence? Was there anything out there that you were made aware of? And before we talk about your dad, but from the school, from friends, anything out there that raised your awareness about what was going on or what was happening to you?
Not really, no. There was not much in our schools or in our society in general at all, implementing, how negative and bad social media can really be.
And Bill, how about you? I mean, when you gave her this, and look, trust me, the same way I was really hesitant about giving our kids, and actually my daughter, who's 29 now, a phone. But then we had things happen like the DC sniper case out in my area back in 2001, and it's like 2002. It's like, hey man, that's a game changer. So I mean, we had some events that changed this. But for you, when you gave her that, was there any? I mean, I know, did you go look for information? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but it's more like, what did you know, or what was the state of information at that point? Because sometimes if you don't know, it's like you don't go looking for it. But if we talk about drinking and driving, I mean, a lot of awareness around that, right? A lot of stuff around that. But I think back then, right, there wasn't a whole lot of awareness around what's the impact of this use of social media, the use of technology, and how it affects our kids.
Yeah, no, I mean, there wasn't then. I really don't think that there's a whole lot now. I mean, I think that what you're doing here and what we're talking about here is starting the road there for people to understand that, there's a real responsibility to something like this, and it impacts our lives in a much bigger way than most of us stop and realize. So yeah, there wasn't anything like that for me. I mean, for me, you talked about the DC sniper, for me, it was the school shootings that were going on and stuff like that. And I'm just thinking to myself, if something like that were to happen, I want my daughter to have a line of communication to me immediately. So that, again, was the purpose of even giving her a phone in the beginning at that age.
So when you gave it to her at that age, what kind of talk did you have? Did you have a sit down? Did you say, this is how to use it? Were there rules of the road? Or, how did you go about giving her the technology and unleashing it on her?
Yeah, I mean, we gave her the, the rules of the road, the ones that are on, people's, minds, like not, how not to take bad pictures of yourself, and don't
Right.
send those things out. And, certain things are going to get, caught and screenshot. And once it's on the internet, it's never going to come down. And, those kind of basic things. Yes, we definitely had those discussions, but the effects of how the information was going to affect her mind were not something that was on our radar at all.
So, Kylie, again, if you don't want to talk about this, I understand your dad mentioned he talked about cutting. So is that something is that something we can address?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you started this, so now we've got this 6-month window to where you've got the phone, then all of a sudden you were happy, then all of a sudden we start making this change over the next 6 months. What led you to that point where you thought, and what were the thoughts behind why you were cutting yourself? What led you to do it? What did you think you were going to solve by doing that?
Honestly, I felt like I was at a point that I did want to kill myself and I wanted to die, but I knew that would hurt other people.
So, Kylie, when you say that you knew you wanted to, how many of those thoughts were yours, you think, and how many of those were thoughts placed in your head by being on social media, like you say, for 5 or 6 hours a night? I mean, where did those thoughts come from? Was it just that waterfall, that avalanche of stuff that kept coming, or were there some other issues that added to that?
No, I mean, it was for them probably about 90% technology and social media and 10% myself, I mean, as a, I was 13 at the time. So as a 13-year-old girl, everything's changing.
Right.
Just learning. So obviously, you're going to be upset and sad and things like that. And then on top of that, social media, so definitely probably 90% to 10%. It wasn't a lot me. I would definitely consider a lot of it influence from technology.
So how did you go about starting to cut yourself? When did that come up during this 6-month period? Early, middle, late?
Probably later. Yeah. It was definitely later.
And did you see it? Did you read about it? Did you hear about it? I mean, from social media or other kids?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was horrible. People on social media, like they'll do it and then they'll post pictures of it and, they'll talk about it and whatever. But yeah, and that's just kind of how it got put into my brain was, I would see it and I was like, okay, well.
Was it a way to get attention and sympathy from other people? Or what was, when people did it and when you did it, what were you looking to achieve by doing it?
Right. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I couldn't tell you. I don't think that mine was for attention because I kept mine hidden for the longest time. But then again, there's kids that were, like I said, posting it on Facebook
Right.
and Instagram or whatever. I think a lot of it was because people felt like, for whatever reason, probably because of social media, that they deserved to get hurt because, they got bad grades or, whatever. And they felt like, or we felt like, we weren't good enough or we didn't feel like we wanted to be here again, which again was the effects of social media because you're seeing these words that you're not good enough and things like that. So everything is interconnected in this whole circle.
So somewhere between 30 and 40 hours a week, your mind was getting filled up with a lot of this stuff, the videos, the other things like that, right?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, and Bill, we talked about this too, because a lot of this went back to personal development. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I just wanted to put a placeholder. So let me ask you now, Bill, as a dad, when did you first find out she'd been cutting herself?
I mean, as soon as we found that out, it was the end of this road because I immediately took charge of the situation. But I'm dealing with that. I mean, she's depressed and she's thinking about suicide and all this stuff. And then we had locally a couple of events here that happened. We had a young girl, 16 years old, one exit down the interstate from us, literally jumped off a bridge into oncoming traffic, committed suicide. Within that same week, there was a girl that, hung herself on Facebook Live, and somebody had that posted or something about that. And all of a sudden, it started to dawn on me. And you just mentioned, like personal development. And that's something that I'm very big on, and feeding my brain and making sure that, we're learning the right things. It dawned on me that, when we were children, and you and I talked about this the other day, our information intake was very limited. We had our friends at school, and we had our immediate friends in our neighborhood, and we had a television with 3 channels and no internet.
And social media was passing a note in class. That's as close as
right. Right. I mean, it was,
right?
Exactly. And then, the telephone that we had was attached to a wall with a cord, and your parents heard everything that you heard, you said and did. And so we were very limited on the intake of information that we had. And then, you look at today's world, and I started talking to Kylie when this happened. I started asking her. I said, "Okay, Kylie, so how many people are you friends with on Facebook?" Oh, it's 500 plus. How many people are you following on Instagram? 1,500. How many people are you following on Twitter? 2,000. How many people are you following on Instagram? 2,000. And and then you add the cable television with 200 channels, and the internet, which is unlimited information. And all of a sudden, it became very apparent to me, as a father, that her poor little mind is just being overloaded with information, right? It's like taking a drink of water from a fire hose. I mean, there's no way that that's going to come out beneficial for anybody. And so what we did immediately is we cut all that back. Matter of fact, we took off all social media platforms with the exception of Facebook. We let her keep that. And why did I do that? Well, because there's no way to fight where we are today. I mean, the fact is that social media is here. I'm never going to stop her from being on it. So what I felt like I needed to do was teach her how to use it properly. So we took it all away except for Facebook. We limited her to 200 friends, so she had to cut 300 and plus some people off of her friends list. At the end of the day, when she was going to bed, she had to turn her phone in, so she wasn't laying in bed and doing those kind of things. And and almost immediately, I mean, literally within 30 days, her whole demeanor changed. Her whole attitude changed. Some of the other things that I did is I said, look, if you're going to be on Facebook, go purposely look for pages and groups that are positive thoughts and positive energies. And so when you're scrolling through, for the negative that your friends are putting out there, you have an offset of positive that's going to be in there as well. And so we took those things. Now, I'm happy to say that I'm a very involved parent, and I think a lot of parents today, and I don't mean this bad, but they're working 2 jobs, and both parents are working, and they're just not as involved as maybe they should be. I mean, the young girl that jumped off the bridge, I mean, I looked at her Twitter account for the year before she killed herself. She posted so many things on social media that were blatant, like, I don't deserve to be here. I feel like I'm going to die in the next month. And, all these things that were so obvious. And I'm just guessing that her parents never even saw it. Because
so
if a parent had saw it, I would have stopped it.
Yeah, so let's dive into a little bit of that, unpack a little bit of that too. So Kylie, when your dad started laying down the law, what were you most afraid of at that point?
Nothing, really. I mean, I wasn't.
Were you afraid of losing friends? Were you afraid of, I mean, because they put this thing out there, I don't believe in it as much, but I know that it's kind of been an overused phrase, but it's called fear of missing out. But was there anything that you feared that you were going to miss out on, or something was going to happen to you when they took these apps away from you, when they took this kind of connectivity away from you? Or for you, was it one of those things is like, thank God, finally somebody's helping me help myself get away from this?
Right. It was probably a little bit of both. I was, maybe not missing out on the friends that I already had, but, when you meet new people, like, and hey, it's nice to meet you. The first thing kids your age say, instead of, hey, let me get your phone number, it's, what's your Instagram? What's your Snapchat? Let's connect on social media. And, when you're like, I don't have Instagram, the first question is why? And you can't just be like, well, I went, it's something that you don't like to tell people as soon as you meet them. So
how do you respond to that? So how's your response today? If somebody says, hey, I'd like to add you on Snapchat or Instagram, how do you reply back?
Yeah, I mean, right now I do have Instagram, so I would typically add them and, things along that line. But if, back then when I didn't, I would say, sorry, I don't have Instagram. They'd be like, why? I'd be like, well, I feel like it's a very negative platform. They'd be like, well, how do you mean? And, I'd go into the, well, you're scrolling and you see all this negative stuff. And
right.
A lot of them agree. A lot of them are like, you know what, like, you're really right. Maybe I should take a break. I'm not giving up my Snapchat or Instagram or anything, but, maybe I should take a month off or something. I'm like, yeah, I very highly recommend it. And I don't go into my full story, but I let them know a little bit about, how I went through a tough time. And as soon as we cut social media and technology out, how it helped me so much. And I think that really helps a lot of the people my age, just hearing, my story, even if it's not my full story right in that moment, because I just met them.
Right. Hey, look, I'm going to be respectful of our time because I wanted to keep this around 15, 20 minutes because I do want people to listen to this. So now let's fast forward from where you were 2 years ago to where you are now. Describe the worst, the lowest point in your life back then, and describe how it feels today.
Yeah, so first, the lowest point in my life was definitely when I decided to cut myself and self-harm. And, I just remember feeling so broken, and I didn't know why, because I have an amazing life. I have amazing parents, my dogs are great. I go to church every Sunday. Like, there was no reason really for me to be sad, and I didn't get it. And then my dad and my mom, they took my social media away, and they said they let me keep Facebook, but for the most part, I was not on my phone and not on social media at all, hardly. And
Kylie, if I can just interject here, the one thing that we did that I think we did right, and you can tell me what you think, Kylie, is we didn't just take it away and say, that's it, you're not having it.
No.
We had this discussion with her and said, look, here's what we think is happening. We think that you're getting
right.
bombarded. We think that your mind is being poisoned by all this, and this is what's causing this. And we want to take this away, not as a punishment, but as a way to help you. And I think she agreed with that, right? I mean,
yeah.
So at the end of the whole thing, she actually thanked us. She actually said, thanks so much for doing that for me.
Well, I think what you did is you take the world as you find it, not as you wish it was. And look, the fact is, with the number of smartphones and devices that everybody has access to, not just kids her age, but adults, it's one of those things. But I think what you did is you did something that is good. How can we take the same platform, not make it a negative, a punishment? Because you know how it goes, Kylie, and you would agree with this too. If I take something away from you to make it forbidden, you're going to try that much harder to get it. But if I can take it and turn it into a teaching tool as opposed to a consequence tool to say, hey, look, instead of filling up your mind with this stuff, let's start following these things. I think you were saying that, Bill. Let's start following some positive stuff. So as you scroll through, that input into your mind is positive stuff. I think that's kind of the realistic way because, look, they're going to get exposed to it in school. They're going to get exposed to it in college. They're going to get exposed to it in work. So why aren't we – my example was being a former state trooper or detective, being in law enforcement. I used to tell people, would you set the example for your kid is that every time you got in the car, you had an open beer and you're half drunk and put the keys in the ignition? What kind of example do you set? And I think that's what we're talking about, just even with you, Kylie. I think the things you learned today will be the example you set for your peers, in the future. And Bill, the same thing. If we'd known then what we know now, I think parents today need to take that and say, look, I need to set the example. So like the parents are out there driving around, holding up a phone, texting while they're driving. What are their kids learning? That it's okay to do that. When they're complaining about what's on social media, what you're teaching your kids, it's okay to do that. So the reason I say that, I just want to commend you for guys doing that. So let's kind of wrap up with this. Let's talk about how's life today, Kylie? How much better is it than it was last year? And then Bill, I've got a couple closing thoughts for you. So how is it today?
Life is amazing. I mean, all of my, family and church and everything the same. The only thing that's different is I limit myself. And, still as a 15-year-old girl, I'm still on social media a lot. And I do admit that. But, again, I follow positive pages. And here recently, I've been logging out at night. So, when I decide, I'm going to bed at 10 o'clock, I set my alarm and I log out of Instagram and Facebook. So that way, if I roll over and try to grab my phone, I'm logged out. And yes, I could log back in, but then, it's already 11 o'clock. What's the point? That kind of thing. And,
right.
It's just, I'm so much happier. I've always been, my nickname in my family's always been Smiley Kylie. And for that 6 months to a year, I was never called that. And I was like, I really miss it. And, now, again, I'm Smiley Kylie, and I love being Smiley Kylie.
Oh, that's great. Hey, Bill, last thing for you. And this is going to be a little tough question because I've had friends who have gone through the loss of a child through suicide, some other folks. And a lot of times parents sit and they want to blame themselves. And it's like, I don't know that that's healthy for anybody to blame yourself. But when you saw this, I mean, what were some of the thoughts that popped in your mind? Why did you decide to take action right then? Was it because, hey, you saw what was going on, or did you think, because, you and I are both smart guys. I don't want to give you a big ego, but hey, you're a smart guy too. Anybody who can trade Bitcoin knows what's going on. So, but even with me, with my daughter, you go, how did I miss this for so long? What was going on? So what's the advice you can give to other parents who were you 2 years ago? I said, what are the things you ought to look for? What are the conversations you ought to be having? And what are the things you need to just be willing to do, regardless of what you think the child might think?
I mean, listen, it's happening out there every day. And if you just, go and do a Google search for somebody that committed suicide on social media or anything like that, I mean, there's millions of articles out there. And as soon as I saw that level of happiness become a level of depression, and I'm not happy and I'm thinking about suicide, and then we caught her self-mutilating and stuff like that, my immediate thought as a parent was, if I don't do something right now, I'm going to be one of those articles. My daughter is going to be one of those articles. And I was not about to let that happen. I mean, I didn't care what it was going to take. I didn't care, what it was going to cost me. It didn't matter to me, but I was going to fix that. And I didn't know how. I knew that, we had a little bit of a foundation of where it was coming from. And then we really kind of stumbled on it in what I said to you about the information overload. And, we are in the information age today. There's no doubt about that. And if we don't pay attention, to the information that we put in, even as adults today. I mean, the world itself, just the news and stuff like that you watch it's so negative. I mean, I've said for years, we need to have the PNN, the Positive News Network, and tell us about stories that, people are saving lives and saving animals. And, don't tell us about the person that got shot and killed and all that. We know that that's happening, but that's not helping us by, dumping that into our heads. And now you compound that with what's going on with social media, you compound that again to our youth and our country, and it's just a problem waiting to happen. It's a bomb waiting to explode, and we jumped all over that and made the proper changes, educated her on why she was feeling that way, showed it to her, proved it to her, and today she's an advocate for others to say, hey, listen, I see how you're feeling. Maybe these are some things you can do to help fix yourself.
Yeah, and this is good stuff. Look, we're going to wrap here. There's probably a whole lot more we could talk about, and maybe we'll come back and revisit this. But I think you guys hit upon a key thing. But Kylie, I want to go back what you said, and I think that's one of the biggest takeaways for me is that you're scrolling through and you're seeing a lot of your friends. I think one of the most important things you can do is when you see one of your friends is to reach out and don't let them go through it, right? I mean, that was my biggest takeaway from you is that it's not just seeing other kids. You're running across other people. This is the person I see in school or I see down at the mall. And then it's almost like, wow, I didn't know that. And if I didn't know that, who else probably didn't know that? So when you see this, it's almost kind of like, hey, I think things have changed a little bit, and I think they need to. I think what you're saying is we've got to reach out and have those conversations with a friend, because it'll mean a lot more coming from you than it will some, random adult that they might reach out to them.
And listen, I just want to cap that off and just say that, look, if you reach out and they're still there and you're not seeing them get the help they need, tell somebody.
Yeah.
You have to tell somebody, because you don't want to be that friend that, I tried and I didn't tell somebody because I didn't want them to think I was ratting them out or something like that. And then you find out they jumped off a bridge. Tell somebody.
That's stuff. Well, hey guys, look, we're going to wrap there. This is great stuff. I want to thank you guys. Smiling Kylie Guyther. That's the new name. We're going to stick with that. All right. Smiling Kylie. And Big Bill Guyther, smaller Big Bill Guyther, 74 pounds. I saw that too, man.
Yes.
Rock on. All right, man. You're looking good. So, hey, guys, thanks very much. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this together. The other thing, folks, I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this around a report I'm just finishing up around the healthy use of technology. I'm going to allow you to download a report for free. It's going to be tied to this video. But watch the video. Just don't download the report and see what's going on. Watch this video. Listen to what everybody says. Then download that report. And then I'm going to come up with some other things later. Some of what you guys have talked about, Bill and Kylie, and then some other things I'm working on is how can parents take action? How can teens take action? But I'll tell you, I think one of the more shocking things is going to be is I just finishing up the research on the growth of social media and looking at the suicide rates for children in the 10 to 14 and 15 to 19 age range. I'm telling you, it blew my mind. So, but let's leave it there. Let's do that report. Thank you guys for doing this today. And folks, we'll get this report out to you, but watch the video first, then download the report and read it. Okay. Till next time, Morgan Wright signing off. Kylie, Bill, thank you guys for being so transparent and authentic. Very helpful. Thank you.